Hi, I am David Basantes Fierro, and this is Pedagogical Grammar, my final project. Today, I'm going to present an error, a recurrent error that I discovered in most of my students. And this type of error is mostly about syntax. So I wanted to select 4 sentences out of the 12 that I have to show the situation. As you can see, I'm going to read the sentences. For example, but I will need return to university. Number 2, I prefer study a specialist. I want to be the health person. I need trainer for care my body. The sentences present different types of errors, but in this particular class I was having with these students, we were talking about the structure verb plus infinitive or verb plus preposition plus verb. So we're going to check some situations that we did to address this particular error. So this type of mistake, we said that first it involves a syntactic mistake because it's affecting the word order. In my opinion, this is an intralingual mistake because it doesn't come from Spanish. It's a problem from within English development in their structures. Also, the student omits the preposition to after the verb need, want, or prefer. This mistake comes from L2, as we just said. Therefore, this is an intralingual mistake. Now, we're going to design a task, an activity, to correct or to remediate this type of mistake. So the considerations are in design and also based on second language acquisition. So I want to create an activity that has interaction of participants with essentials in the task, that has corrected feedback and the degree of explicitness. So in the interaction of participants, in order to guarantee the interaction of participants, we will be doing this activity in groups of 2. And also, both students, they have to agree in the answers they are going to provide. The essentials of the task we're going to provide is that the students need to comprehend the following grammar topics, which is basically 1, verb plus preposition or verb plus infinitive. We will correct any possible mistake as teachers in the end of the activity. Why? Basically, because we don't want to stop or interrupt communication, although this time the objective of the task is not communicative, but accuracy. And finally, in the explicitness of the grammar, we will provide implicit instructional grammar, not explicit. So after or once the task is finished, then we will do some feedback more explicitly. According to second language acquisition criteria, the interactionist, in order to communicate, the students will work in pairs, and in the end of the sentence of the activity, they will present their work to the class. The social cultural aspect is that the teacher will take notes of the language the students use during their activity, because we don't want to interrupt, to stop, and also we want to register the development of their language. And in the cognitive aspect, we want to present a task that has low degree of difficulty. We don't want the students to get distracted or confused with some difficult task when we want to address a very specific syntax point. So the aim is to expose the students to a correct use of the sequence verb plus preposition. So very quickly, I'm going to show the task we are proposing here. And basically the name of the task is risks in the jungle. So the students will have to look at this picture, and then they will have to describe 5 actions that people are doing here. This is the task preparation. Then they will work in pairs to look at an infographic. Again, this is real material. So they're being exposed to real English. And here they will take notes and check about possible problems or risks when people do trips or go to the jungle, wildlife encounters. Now, after reading this information, these infographics, then they will just check if these statements are true or false according to these infographics. Now, in this activity, some statements are false, some statements are true. Now, but all of the statements use correctly the sequence verb plus infinitive or verb plus preposition. So in this way, they are getting exposed to the language using this second language acquisition criteria. We have other activities as well, but I'm going to present only the ones, one of these activities, okay? So as we move on, we also worked in adaptation of books and activities. In my case, I am a freelance teacher, so I don't really use a course book or one particular course book. I work more with websites. So the original website that I work with presents mechanical practice of exercises, not focused on communication. So my proposal is to transform the practice exercises they provide to a task-based learning framework. So to do that, first, I want my students to work in pairs. And if for some reason I have a one-to-one class, I will team up with them to work, right? To focus on communicative skills, meaning we don't want them just to feel or provide nonsense correct sentences or grammatically correct sentences that mean nothing in the real life of the students. So we want to provide them items of communication that they can actually use in real life. So the task will be to work in pairs, read, for example, in this case, I'm going to analyze, they're going to work with comparatives and superlatives. So we want to present a real life situation in which they have to choose one candidate for a job. So that we will provide them 2 CVs, 2 curriculum vitae from 2 different candidates. And after comparing, the students have to agree on who is the best, what candidate is the best for a particular position in a company. In this case, it will be a secretary. Basically, in this particular topic, I chose the comparatives. So the website presents an explanation in this way, and then a set of activities like multiple choice questions like this. Very grammar oriented, extremely mechanical. And yes, this website doesn't have a communicative approach. It has a more academic or English for specific purposes approach. So my adaptation would be to transform these activities into a more realistic environment, more realistic situation. So basically, I would, number one, I would provide the students with 2 options so they can actually choose and select one option. And in order to compare, I mean, in order to select a particular option, they will have to first compare. So the adaptation will be like this. My proposal would be to maintain the grammar explanations, but to adapt the exercises to a more communicative form. In order to do that, I would select a list of situations, like, for example, pick out a winner from a context, or select the best option for business, or to hire somebody, or to fire somebody based on some criteria. So for this adaptation, I will choose the task of hiring a new employee based on some parameters. They will be provided with 2 CVs, like for example, this is from this person, Madison Graves, and this other CV from Sarah Cheng. So they will have to read these 2 CVs, and then based on a set of requirements for job position, they will choose what is the best candidate, and they will have to support their claims. This is the adaptation I will do to the website, website I work with, because as you know, websites are more for a solo work. It's very hard to have a website that coordinates action in groups, unless you're talking about like Kahoot or all those other, let's say, somehow new web applications. So that would be more or less the end of my presentation. And well, one of my conclusions about pedagogical grammar is that these principles of second language acquisition work very, very, very intimately, let's say, with implicit grammar. And it is a challenge for teachers that have been working with traditional standards or styles decades to change the mentality. But it's also about practice, because in my case, I really found challenging to adapt my way of thinking, my way of designing activities so that they fulfill actually second language acquisition. So I do understand the differences, yet it takes me more practice to be creating and more pedagogical grammar structures or activities that are follow along with second language acquisition. Well, thank you very much. And that's my presentation.